Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me this morning during Coffee with Dwayne. I have a special guest, Pastor Sean. Pastor Sean, you want to say hello to everybody?
Hey, everybody. Good morning.
And you're actually joining us from your happy place this morning. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm joining you from my baby's nursery, and so they are downstairs right now, and they're taking a nap, so I'm trying to let them sleep, and so I took over the nursery for a little bit.
That is so cool. For those that are watching, maybe they don't know your story. They don't know about what an incredible miracle. You want to talk about just the part of your journey and the miracle of your two wonderful twins?
Yeah, yeah. So my wife Lindsay and I have been married for a little over 9 years now, and in the early days, we had this idea that we'd be married for a little bit and get to have fun and do all these things, and then eventually we'd have kids. And when the time came, we decided we wanted to start a family. We struggled and couldn't figure out why. We ended up going to some doctors, and they actually couldn't even tell us why. And so, after several years of going through that, we this last fall started our IVF journey. So, going through in vitro fertilization, and a bunch of you helped support us and with prayers and encouragement, some even financially, to go through that difficult process. And we found out just after Thanksgiving last year that it took, and we were pregnant. And then the beginning of July, on July 7th, our two twins, Mason and Mackenzie, were born, and they're a little over 3 months old now. And
Wow.
it's
So
crazy how
you're still
quickly
in it.
time is going.
So you
Yeah.
were right in it. So you're getting lots of good sleep at night, and they're sleeping all the way through, right?
There are nights. There have been 2 nights in a row that they did sleep through the night, and then last night they made up for it by not sleeping much at all. So,
Yeah, there's always a balance,
yeah.
there's always a balance. But how awesome is that? How awesome is that? It's
Hmm.
amazing. So as we had going this morning, so just want to say hello to a few people coming online. Bernita, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us today. And Ray Coffee. Uh, Anything with coffee, I think Ray just jumps into it. He's just, he's a coffee nut like me. So, Gail, good morning. Good to see you. Good to see you this morning. Yeah. So, if anybody wants to see pictures, I mean, Lindsay does a great job of just posting a lot of pictures of your beautiful twins.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. So be sure to check that out. So thanks for having coffee with me this morning, everybody. Make sure you grab your coffee. I met earlier with Sean to talk this through, and I actually just refreshed mine, so it's nice and fresh. But today, wanted to talk about youth ministry and children's ministry, and some of the changes going on. As many of you know, Sean's wife was our children's pastor. And just did an amazing job. And then we prayed, and they have these twins. And so Pastor Lindsay was like, I just want to stay home with my twins, which I can't blame her. I can't blame her at all. So in this process, we were interviewing people, looking at hiring another full-time children's pastor. And the Lord just kept bringing me back to Pastor Sean. A lot of churches will often combine youth and children's ministry. And one of the cool things is here at Shoreline Community Church, Pastor Lindsay has created this amazing children's leadership team that has people on it that have been involved in children's ministry for decades. They were part of raising my kids, back when Pastor Kevin was the lead pastor here. My kids were coming up. So we have this wonderful team, wonderful leadership going on. Began to talk to Pastor Sean about it, and he's like, yeah, I feel like that's how God's leading me. So I want to bring Pastor Sean on, just talk a little bit about youth and children's ministry. And I would encourage you, as you're coming on today, if there are questions that you have or comments, just to go ahead and put them in. And I'm looking at them, paying note to them, and pull them out. But Pastor Sean, maybe just as we get going, just kind of share your heart. Like, why is youth and children's ministry so important to you?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on today and giving me the opportunity to talk about the things that are most important to me, kids and youth ministry. And uh, really, when I think back to my childhood, I grew up going to church. My parents separated when I was or divorced when I was in second grade, and I continued to go to church with my mom when I would be with her, and then not going to church when I was with my dad. And so I have experiences, I have memories growing up of going to children's ministries, of going to youth ministry, and just being able to personalize the impact that it's had on my life. I'm able to see how that kind of set the course for my life. And for those of you who don't know a lot about my background, my dad was not a follower of Jesus. And there were some very difficult times with him, and some lifestyle choices that he made that there were times that I was tempted to follow, just being really honest. And I think that's the investment that children's ministers and leaders made into me, the investment that youth leaders made into me, the prayers of my mom and my grandmas and all that kind of stuff. It helped to set the course for my life on a different trajectory than it might have otherwise gone. So youth and children's ministry are vitally important to me. And I personally believe that if you can get somebody following Jesus at a young age, it's going to change the entire course of the rest of their life. And so that's really important to me.
Well, one of the things that that resonates with me is that whole idea that, if you change a child, you change a family. And if you change a family, you change a community, and you change a community, you change the world. And like you said, it's during those formative years when you're a child, you're a youth, that's when you're deciding, what do I believe? What is it about? And everyone's coming at you. Everybody wants you to follow them. So it is a key time. So kind of think about that. What makes a good youth pastor, a good children's pastor? Like, what are those key things that have stood out to you in your background where, man, when they did this had an impact on my life?
Yeah. For me to answer that question, I have to look back at again, how they affected my life, the people that I interacted with at a young age. And so for me, the number one person that sticks out to me is my youth pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually only my youth pastor for 1 year, because it was my senior year in high school, and I had moved from one town to another. So moved to a new school, new town, started going to a new church with my mom, and that's where I met my youth pastor. And the things that I think made him so important for me was, number one, he put up with all my shenanigans and all the stuff that I did that most adults would not have put up with. And
Right.
He didn't just put up with them, but he genuinely enjoyed being around me.
Right.
And sometimes I didn't even enjoy being around myself. So that meant a lot to me. He was somebody who believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. And probably most importantly, it goes back to what we talk about all the time, the great commandment, that he loved God above everything else. And then he loved me, and he loved students. And, I don't remember a whole lot of what he spoke about on a Wednesday night during youth group, but I remember the moments that he invested in me, when he wasn't up on stage with a microphone, and he was just being real, being authentic, and walking through life with me.
Well, yeah, I mean, Sean and I were talking earlier about just those that had impact on, in our life. And I was telling him, man, I can barely talk about my youth pastor without just losing it emotionally, because it was he was there, and we talked about how it's important, training and investment, all those things are cool, but you saw just Jesus modeling the importance of just, that proximity of just being with people. And you talked a little bit about, it was those unscripted moments that come up just by being there. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, when you read through the Gospels, I don't see a lot of moments where Jesus sits the disciples down and says, "Hey, we're going to head over to this town and let's prep ourselves for this big thing that's going to happen." A lot of it was on the journey. It was on your way from point A to point B, and those unscripted moments that Jesus definitely knew were going to happen, but the disciples didn't. And those were some of the most powerful moments. And I think in our lives is, or at least in my life, it's a lot the same way. That it's those unscripted moments, those moments when a student kind of realizes that you're there for them, not necessarily to push an agenda, but you're there because you love them. Going to sporting events communicates love. Going to band concerts definitely communicates love, because sometimes it's painful to hear. I was in band, so I can say that. And my youth pastor came to some of those, and it was difficult for him, I'm sure.
I will say Shorecrest has a pretty killer band. So any Shorecrest teachers watching, the Shorecrest band is amazing. So, but except for that, then yeah, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just those, to me, the most important moments are those unscripted ones where you're just investing your life into somebody else's, and because you're a follower of Jesus, he's there with you and he's a part of those conversations. So,
Yeah. Well, it's as you go. I think sometimes we become so aware of ourselves and our own inadequacies that sometimes we don't show up. And Jesus just to his disciples said, just show up. And I think it's the power of like in a youth and a child's life that if you will just show up, my son Braden, I hope Braden don't mind me sharing this, but he was getting ready to go for an interview for a fast food restaurant, and I was like, man, I said, if you'll just show up and just be there, because I've had friends that are managers of fast food restaurants, and the hardest thing is just to get students just to show up. And if you show up, it's like, I'll train you, I'll develop you. You want to advance, you want to become a shift manager, what do you want? If you just show up. And I think it's the same way as we pour into students' lives. I know like for like teachers watching, maybe you're a teacher watching, and teachers who show up have impact in the student's life because you were there. And I think that so many times, students, even as adults, we have people that move in and out of our life. And it's so hard to find that consistency that, boy, if you can just be consistent in anyone's life, it just makes a huge impact. It's changed my life.
yeah, absolutely. And that to me has been, hopefully what this is how I feel, and hopefully it resonates with others. What I feel like I have been able to bring is hopefully some consistency. I've been on staff here now for about 4.5 years, and been in the area for 6 years. When we moved here, so Lindsay could start the children's ministry position, and I love students, and I want to instill in them the things that were taught to me, the belief in them that they maybe don't see in themselves, and that there's a God who loves them passionately, and so that's what I hope I'm able to bring is that consistency and that love of Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I think kids and students sometimes even better than adults. They have that good sniff check. They can know if you're real or not. And you walk in. I know with my kids and even their friends, they know if you're trying to just know them or not.
Yeah.
And so that we talked a lot about how just ministry is just what Jesus was saying. You love God. It's tested how you love people, everybody. Like the kid that shows up and they're obedient, and the kid that shows up and they're bouncing off the walls, or other kids. But you're there, and you have the proximity, but you're filled with the love of Christ. That love of Christ is flowing through, and people know that, they sense that, they sense that, and they see that. So I just want to echo and underline that, how important that is. What are some things, I know like that's even kind of caused you to even change how you're doing youth ministry, right? Where you're like wanting to get it in smaller groups where they build that relationship. You want to talk about that a little bit, some of the changes in youth ministry and how you got there and why you're changing it up?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think back to my days in youth ministry, it was the typical youth ministry model. It's a Wednesday night. It's an hour and a half. We'll start off with some games. We'll give some announcements. We'll sing some worship songs, and we'll hear a message. And there's nothing wrong with those things, and those are things that we're still going to incorporate in some of our planning. But kind of going back to those unscripted moments, and going back to those moments where conversations happen. The most successful thing that we've seen is our small group times. We started doing small groups a few years ago, and over the last couple of years, we've allowed more and more time for them in our planning, and we're never able to consistently stick within that time frame that we've allowed for small groups. This last year we had 25-30 minutes for small groups every night, and groups were continually going over by 10-15 minutes because especially in the world we live in, where we're more connected than ever with social media, at the same time we're more lonely than ever, and those opportunities for authentic conversations are so important. And so what we've decided to do, and it's been on my heart for a while, and I've been wrestling with it for a while, and trying to figure out how to make it work. And then COVID came along and kind of sped up our process a little bit. But what we're looking at doing, and what we're planning on doing, is making small groups our weekly connection point with students.
Mm.
So our entire investment on a weekly basis in students is directed toward the small groups. That's our focus point. Our focus point is not me getting up on stage with a microphone, because honestly, I could tell you probably one message that my pastor ever preached, my youth pastor, and it was
It was a pretty
because,
cool message. You were telling me about it. It was,
yeah, it's because he was teaching a lesson on value, and trying to say that, no matter what you go through in life, your value is given to you by God, and you have that value no matter what happens. And so he was trying to give this illustration, took a $20 bill, was going to shove it up his nose and then give it to somebody covered in boogers. And he shoved it up too far, and his nose started bleeding everywhere.
yeah,
And that's why it was memorable, and it was a great message.
right,
But it was memorable for a completely random reason.
right.
And so the goal isn't necessarily to get me up on stage and give me a microphone and let me speak at students, but to create an opportunity for students to sit down and have a conversation with adults who love Jesus, and with other students who love Jesus, and to process through life together.
Mm. So you I think you've already begun to where you're going to be meeting together, doing that big kind of gathering event once a month, and then every week getting students involved in small groups. Is that right?
Yeah. We don't want students to completely lose out on the opportunity to come together with all the other students that are part of our ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still incorporating that into once a month on Sunday evening. We're doing a big youth group event. So that's basically our Wednesday night programming from the past,
Mm-hmm.
but we're taking out the small group component because we've got that into our weekly rhythms. And then we're investing more energy into making it fun, making it kind of high energy, opportunity for students to come together with friends and have a lot of fun, but then also to get up and to speak a message, to preach a little bit, to give God an opportunity to speak into their hearts through my words or the words of another leader getting up. And so we're still doing that once a month. We did it last month. That was our masked Olympics.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately wasn't able to be there because my father had just passed. But that's a great reason for leaders. I had some awesome leaders who stepped up and said, "Hey, we've put you've done all the preparation, put all the plans in place. We'll take it over. We'll run with it." And so adults and students that have stepped into leadership took that over and made it happen. And I've heard nothing but good things about it. And so we're going to be doing another event on November 1st, kind of a Halloween after event type thing, and just another opportunity for us to come together and have a lot of fun and talk about Jesus. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I mean, I like what you said there about how you put a lot of work in preparing, getting it ready, and then you handed it over to your leaders. I think about how often my youth pastor did that. I'd walk in and he'd say, "Get up there and lead a song," and it would totally freak me out. I had no desire, no passion, but he saw kind of like what we're talking about. I'm not sure we talked about it now or before, but you talked about how your youth pastor saw potential in you and just kind of pushed you forward. Do you want to talk about the importance of that?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, I grew up going to church. So I heard all the stories. I knew a lot of the things that in your head, the head knowledge about Jesus and the Bible. I decided that I wanted to devote my life to following Jesus toward the end of my sophomore year in high school. But the next year, I kind of didn't know what to do with myself. And when I moved to a new town my senior year of high school, and got involved in this youth group that I was a part of, my youth pastor, he believed in me in a way that I didn't believe in myself, and nobody else had believed in me other than probably family who had to believe in me because I'm blood. But he had no reason, no skin in the game other than he loved Jesus and he loved students, and he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so, yeah, he did do some of those things like you just mentioned. I joined the youth worship team, and I didn't know how to do anything. Like, I didn't sing. I owned a guitar that I got for free, and I didn't know how to play it. And so he said, okay, here next week, here are the songs that you're doing. And I sat down with a friend, and my friend showed me how to play the 4 chords that I needed to play to do those songs. A
You can
week's
play a lot of
notice.
songs with 4 chords. So.
You can, especially back in those days, the early
Right.
2000s, you could play almost any
Right.
worship song with 4 chords.
Yeah.
Um, and so he did that. He invited me into student leadership. He asked me if I would lead my high school campus Christian club on Tuesdays at lunch, and I had never even been to one before.
Wow.
I'd never been to a Christian club at any school, and all of a sudden I was leading one, and so yeah, he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and he
Hmm.
called it out of me, and he pushed me, and he pushed me, and encouraged me, and yeah.
Well, it obviously had a huge impact in changing your life and
It
lifting
did.
you up, and I think it's encouragement for all of us that when we're looking, at everybody, but especially when we're looking at children and at youth, just seeing that potential and encouraging them, giving them opportunity,
Mhm.
walking with them and encouraging them. And it has a long, long impact in their lives. I mean, I had no idea when my youth pastor was doing that to me, how that would end up for me, and same for you. So for all of us watching, boy, youth and kids in your life, really everyone around you, adults even, that's a good word, just seeing the potential. We're all made in the image of God. We're all filled with his passion, with his purpose, with skills he's put in. And we need to see everybody as just filled with potential. And when you speak that and you encourage that and you walk with them, the things we've been talking about, proximity, just being with people, being consistent, and just being filled with that love of Christ, I mean, it changes a life and changes the world. That's how we change the world. Jesus changed the world one life at a time, and it just took off. But it was one life, whoever's in front of you in the marketplace or wherever you are today, just don't underestimate that power, I guess is what I would say, and what I'm hearing coming from you today, Sean. So
Yeah.
it's powerful. That's powerful. Well, before we kind of sign off today for this coffee time, do you want to talk about kind of a couple of dates that are coming up? I know Halloween's right around the corner. You want to tell us what's going to be happening with kids on that night?
Yeah, so Halloween for us as a church is typically, I would say, probably our biggest outreach event of the year, and it's a ton of fun. We typically do a
Mm-hmm.
trunk or treat event with a bunch of cars and games, and like probably hundreds of pounds of candy, and it's a blast. And we've had great response from our community coming out and supporting that, and allowing us to bless them on that night. This year things are different. Everything's different this year, and so as we started looking at trunk or treat this year and figuring out, can we do it, how do we do it, everything, we just really felt like we needed to go a little bit of a different direction, just for the safety of our community. Having large groups of people gathered together in our back parking lot's not a good idea right now. And so what we're doing
Yeah.
is we're creating an opportunity for people to engage online, and the way we're doing that is we're creating some photo contests, that we're going to have a hashtag available for you. And when you post pictures to that hashtag on the night of Halloween, we'll get on and do a Facebook Live and give away some prizes to people that have been a part of that.
Mhm.
So it's going to be open to people that are attenders of Shoreline Community Church, but also to our community as a whole. So we want to get it out and give them an opportunity to engage. I think of young children that are probably bummed out that they don't get to go trick or treating because some of their families won't let them this year. But this is an opportunity for them to get into a costume, post some pictures of their costume, of them having fun doing things with their family, kind of Halloween, fall activities, things like that. And so just trying to create something that we can do in the place of our traditional trunk or treat, and then hopefully we'll be able to get back to it next year or
Yeah.
at some point. We're not trying to get rid of it for good, just taking a little bit of a detour this year. So
Well, it's been, I mean, Halloween for me has always been a great night of just connecting with the neighborhood. Wherever I've been, the whole neighborhood comes out, people come to your door. And this year with COVID, all the safety restrictions, this is an alternative. So we'll be getting information out there to the hashtag. I think there's going to be like a homemade costume contest. We've heard parents talk about, man, I don't want to spend $50 on a costume that my kid's not going to get to wear. So we're like, do a homemade costume, put it out there, and kind of level the playing field a little bit where anybody can be engaged and engage in that. And then November 1st that you talked about, that's going to be a launch with youth as well as doing something for kids that day as well, right? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. And let me back up just a little bit to that homemade costume thing.
Yes.
I've come across a bunch of pictures lately of myself younger in homemade costumes. So even if you're not getting on to participate in posting pictures of your own, maybe just get on and look at some of the crazy stuff that I wore at some point, and or that other people are posting on there. It's just going to be a lot of fun. A great opportunity for us to connect with our community in that way. But then, yeah, November 1st. Like we mentioned before, we're going to be doing our next big youth in-person gathering. Still socially distant, still wearing face coverings, doing all the things we need to do. But we'll be doing that November 1st in the evening, and then in the morning, November 1st, we'll have kids content available again on YouTube. So that'll be kids lessons similar to what we were doing kind of late spring, early summer this last year, and so we'll have that kids stuff available again, some lessons and those kind of things. And then also on that very first one, November 1st, we're going to be raffling off some prizes as well. So you'll find out more about that and what that's going to look like. But just want to give an opportunity for kids to engage with Jesus, and so we're going to be providing that content again on YouTube starting November 1st.
Yeah, which I can't wait. So that's going to be a fun night. Encourage everyone to stay in. And as we put those things out, do be sharing them, sharing them out, get them to the community. It's a great way just to connect. I think we need to take advantage of every opportunity that we have to connect and just to, make the best of a situation, all those little touch points. So yeah, Pastor Sean, thank you for just your willingness to step up and to just to love students in this area. As we kind of wrap things up this morning, wanted to just take an opportunity just to pray for you. And I'm watching online, a lot of people watching who have been praying and love you and your family so much. So just want to pray for you, as you said earlier, for those that may not have heard. Just a little over two weeks ago, lost your father, and this has been a season of just the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. The Lord gave you two twins miraculously with your family, and then having to walk with your dad. So can we just want to invite the entire community watching just to pray. And if you're on Facebook, just want to encourage you just to type out those prayers. I know for me, it's meant a lot to me when you've prayed for me in that way and just typing them. But can we just close this time by just praying for Pastor Sean and showing him how much we love him and support him. And even as you're watching today, maybe something that Pastor Sean has said that's stirring your heart, and you're like, boy, I want to be involved in youth ministry. I want to be involved in children's ministry, but maybe you don't feel qualified, And the thing is, God qualifies you. I mean, he told his disciples to follow me. He didn't say, go off and get ready and then come back and show me what you have. He said, follow me, drop what you have, follow me. I'll train you, I'll equip you. Just show up and be passionate, be consistent, be there, and see what God will do in all of our lives. So if God stirred your heart this way, boy, reach out to Pastor Sean. Or maybe it's for another area that you want to show up. So much happens when we show up, and just like Pastor Sean was saying, those unscripted moments. So would you join me in just praying for Pastor Sean and just let those prayers just fill up Facebook even now. So Lord, we thank you for Pastor Sean and Lindsay and their beautiful twins, and just the work that you're doing in their lives, the ways you've provided for them, the ways that you continue to speak and to pour into their lives because they showed up. Pastor Sean showed up and he said, Lord, here I am. I'm listening to you. I want to be used by you. And you have consistently poured in to his life and to Lindsay's life and even now pouring through their family's life. So much happens when we just show up and you say, Lord, here I am. I'm here. I'm available to you. So I thank you for that. And so, Lord, I pray for Pastor Sean and his family as they walk through just this season of just mourning the loss of his dad. Lord, I pray that in this time that they would experience your presence. Your word tells us that when we go through difficult times, you don't withdraw from us, but you lean in. So God, may Sean experience that. May his family experience that. May his home be filled with that. I pray that you would give them rest. This morning season as a season when we need those times of rest just to be refreshed by you. So Lord, I pray that you would provide those opportunities when he can rest, when he can turn off all those things, as hard as it is, and just be refreshed with you, refreshed with his family, pour into him. Lord, I pray for all the youth leaders, Lord, during this season, as he talks about even times when he can't be there, God, that they would step up, that you would empower his youth leaders, you would empower those that are in there, and that you would call others to come alongside and that they would have a passion for youth and kids in the area. Lord, that they would realize they just need to show up, just to be consistent, to be there. Lord, that there would be men and women who are passionate about just being there and recognizing the power that happens when we just show up in a student's life. So Lord, be with them today, Lord, as we look at this different Halloween trunk or treat outreach. Lord, I pray that you would bless it, that it would connect so many students, so many kids, families in a unique way. Lead us and empower us, and we give it to you. Now, Lord, help us as we walk today. All of us are watching. God, may we show up being filled with your presence, filled with your power, filled with the love of Christ to show up in someone's life and just to let it pour through us. And we give you thanks for it in your name, Jesus. And everyone said together, amen. 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 So good to see all these things. I'm reading some of these prayers that have come through. I know that we're on Zoom and you may not be able to see it, but so many people, Tony and Kathy are praying for this morning, and Ruth McDougall and Naomi praying, and Ray Coffey, of course, my wife Stephanie praying, and Jim Kahn praying over you. So many people praying over you. So Sean, I hope you feel the love and support of a wonderful community, and so blessed that we have you as our youth and children's pastor. So anything that you want to share before we sign off this morning?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all of you who are praying, and I know it's all the ones that Pastor Dwayne just mentioned and so many more. When we first moved to Shoreline 6 years ago, it was because of a children's ministry position that opened up that Lindsay had been hired on for, and we had no idea where Shoreline was. We were from Oregon and didn't have any plans on leaving Oregon, but God directed us up here, and I just want to say thank you so much for all of you, and God has brought us here for a reason, and it's not just for us and what we can provide, but it's because of who you are as a community and the way that he blesses us through you. So thank you so much for all the ways that you've supported us over these years and right now as well. Today would have been my dad's 60th birthday, so I'm feeling it. I think I'm a little bit too tired right now to really feel a bit later on today. It'll probably hit me a little bit more, and I just really appreciate all of your prayers and supports. So.
Yeah, well, we love you, and your family is a very easy family to love. So we're so glad that you're here. We love you guys. Keep praying, keep going, and let's just keep showing up in people's lives and allow the Lord to flow through. So thanks for joining us today, and pray that your coffee is awesome as you go through your day, and that you're experiencing God in your life. So God bless. Thank you, Pastor Sean. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys later. God bless.